The book of Zechariah 4:6 says, "Not by might nor by power, but by my spirit, says the Lord."
Welcome to PSA. My name is Felix, if we haven't met yet. And if you were here last week, my wife Tanya shared how after 11 years, we were closing our business/other home in downtown LA. So literally, the church has left the building. But we are still on a mission. Our values that we had posted on our wall there, they read, love more, better together, always leave with more, methods change, but mission remains. My wife and I are both creatives by nature and by occupation. Most importantly, we are completely sold out for Christ. So when it came time to get married, we actually eloped and threw all our wedding money at our building to gather people creatively for business and ministry. And as you can imagine, there's endless stories, and outside some NDAs, I can tell you that we had some of the most iconic people from all walks of life that we hosted in our space. Molly Anderson pitching her new business after designing the Apple Watch. Stephen Furtick live streaming a message from North Carolina Elevation Church. Usher for the Grammys. Paul Rodriguez for his 10-year anniversary of Primitive Skateboards. Allen Iverson and Reebok reissuing his shoe. Chad Boseman, rest in peace, for a Wakanda-related event. Uzi Vert, PNB Rocks, Nike dropping a new Air Force. I could go on and on, but I'm sure you get it. Now, besides Lion being raised there, the most valuable thing were the moments that Tanya and I agreed to leaving 2 luxury buildings to hopefully be able to move in there and gather people and help connect them to their creator. No matter what season we were in, my wife and I were basically in full-time ministry, whether volunteering or leading or in a staff position. And whenever leadership would gather to review the progress at the round table, they would be like, how many people at the book club or the Bible study or the crew, etc., etc. And people would be like 3, 7, 10. Then it would come to us and we would be like 65, 90, 150. Obviously, some people felt a sort of way, and they would be like, well, you guys live in a warehouse, so it's so easy. And I was like, oh, there are warehouses all over town, so you too could leave your home and move into one to do ministry. Why don't you? Oh yeah, it's not that easy anymore. Those of you who have church planted know the feeling. Leadership, it's not a position, it is a posture. Your position won't make you lead, your actions will. But that seems to be somewhat of the problem with modern day Christianity and the church. Too many are being compromised by convenience instead of convicted by the covenant. As followers of Christ, we need to remember what we have been saved from and for what reason. If the world watches us compromise the gospel, our values, what are they going to believe about our God? The first disciples sacrificed it all for their faith. Stephen was stoned to death, and not the kind of stone you might like. Peter was crucified upside down because he felt unworthy to die in the same manner as Christ. Andrew was crucified on an X-shaped cross. Thomas was like speared to death. Bartholomew was filleted and beheaded. Matthew was killed with a sword. Philip was also crucified upside down. Simon was sawed in half. Thaddeus killed with arrows. James beaten to death. Matthias beheaded. Paul, the super apostle, with the majority of the New Testament under his belt and his writing, he was jailed and beheaded. Only John dies peacefully of old age, outcasted on an island. Maybe he was truly the disciple that Jesus loved the most. Some churches and some leaders have been so compromised that they can hardly handle a bad comment, let alone conflict. And that's why when the world pressures the church caves to culture, and then it's the gospel that suffers. Are you ready to die for what you believe? Okay, too harsh. How about what are you willing to lose for the gospel? When COVID struck, all churches closed their doors and we opened ours. Not because we were superheroes, but because our Bible says in the book of Matthew that not even the gates of hell will stop the church. And in our instance, it was the same thing. So as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. COVID was not only closing our business, it was taking our home. But we weren't going to go out without a fight. And the way we fight our battles is with the Spirit and the words of the one true living God. In the earlier versions of what we now know as church, ministers had a home on church property. So they could be of service 24/7. But like all things we do nowadays, it's gotten a little out of control. More compromise, more capitalism. Churches became mega. Pastors started to want to become celebrities. And even unemployed PKs have property portfolios. That is not a parsonage, that is a pimpage. And we should not treat Christ's bride like a side chick. There are too many pastors losing their buildings and not enough pastors willing to lose their homes. How are you going to have multiple homes as a pastor, but God has no house under your watch? The reason the mega church exists is because mega discipleship does not. We put our home, our health on the altar to serve the Lord, and there the Lord saved both. Tanya and I had to come to terms after some unfulfilled promises from people at the church that the onus of actually being the church was on us wherever we went. Because it wasn't just something that we went to, it was actually who we had become. And when you are the church, you can't leave it because you can't leave yourself. So when job security from the church fell through, it doesn't matter because our job is not our work for the church. Our job is our work for the kingdom. And the kingdom looks like this. Too big to contain, just like the God we serve. In the book of Acts, some leaders love to defend these huge gatherings by referring to the verse that says God added to their numbers daily. Well, he did, and he still does. But what he was adding to was Christianity, not a specific building or business model. It doesn't say build a coliseum to house a crowd. It says believers sold their possessions so no one would lack anything, and they kept meeting regularly in the homes and the synagogues. That is mutual submission and sacrifice for each other at the purest form. So the constant in all this is that you, me, we are the church, and he will add to your numbers daily if you serve him, and it will look different for everyone. Our PSA numbers lately, for the full PSAs on YouTube, they're not much. But our short videos on social media have millions of views because that's how people mostly consume content now. So Church at Allies did not continue, and we weren't sent out by our pastors. We were sent out by our God. And God has moved our influence from in person to online for this season. We will be online until we see you in person, because faith releases what the Spirit needs to manage. So as we packed every box into the U-Haul, the more we actually got excited because we move with the Spirit. And I am constantly thinking about our future because we don't live in the past. That's our old address. We now have a new one. And we trust and believe that the God who turns graves into gardens has our next one set. And when we're ready, we'll receive it. The methods will change, but the mission remains. And until next week, let's love more, and we'll see you at the next PSA. Can I get my DP and my camera guy, tech team, sound, everything? Guys, thank you for tuning in to PSA. We love you guys so much. There's a couple hundred videos here for you, and my wife's up next and Lion soon. We'll see you next week.
God bless you. Bye.
Bye.
Bless you.